Hello everyone, this is video 1 of 3 that I'll be putting up here on the Facebook group page over the next several days into next week. I've gotten some great questions from you all and think they might be interesting or relevant to the greater group, so I'll share them here. The first question is, do I ever have days where my physical body or energetic vibration feels down? And if so, how do I manage that if I'm scheduled to work with clients? Do I have practices to maintain my physical health and to keep a high vibration? This person writes, these are things I'm working on, but I find that I get low-level colds or allergies where I feel lowered energy, and I would worry about working with clients in that state. So I'll break it down into each of the questions within the larger question. Number 1, do I ever have days where my physical body or energetic vibration feels down? And how do I manage that if I'm scheduled to work with clients? So I do have days like that, but they're really rare. And the reason for that is, I think, number 1, I've been doing this for so long. I've got a really good groove going with regard to self-care. I have really good boundaries around how much client-facing time I spend in a week. You know, after all of this time, I've really been able to tailor my practice for sustainability and to avoid burnout. That said, though, there are days that I feel, better than others. And one thing that has always served me well in this work is I came into it being pretty much of a workhorse. I'm wired that way. I've been working since I was about 11, and I've primarily had my own businesses even starting then. So I have a long history of just having that musculature of you just gotta work hard. Now, that's not required to really serve in this work. These comments I'm going to make are really solely my perspective. Depending on which practitioner you talk to, I know you would get a different story. What works for me is I just have always viewed this work as being truly in service, and I have always showed up every day to I'm going to push up my sleeves and jump in and work on behalf of my clients and spirit. So that really clear distinction or really clear intention has always served me. I also, I would say probably all of you, I just love this work. I love everything involved in working with spirit and working with extrasensory perception, helping people, learning more about non-ordinary reality. I mean, if this was not my daily work, this would be what I would do on all of my free time. And as a matter of fact, this is all pretty much that I do in my life now at this stage, and by my choice. So a huge passion and interest and curiosity in this work. I mean, after thousands of client sessions, thousands and thousands and thousands, I can't tell you how it's so true. Everyone seems new to me, and that might seem incomprehensible or improbable, but it's really not. I think too, what helps me with that is I have always had a very good grounding practice. I have always cultivated presence. Prior to getting into this work, prior to setting up my practice, I had 10 plus years of active personal practice. starting way back with my introduction to Jane Roberts and her channeled material, the Seth material, that body of work, which is a couple of dozen books. I had been studying those books and practicing the worldview presented in those books, and that served me so well when I began my shamanic training and then started my practitioner work. But on days when my vibration feels low, I just do a really simple check-in that I learned from my shamanic teacher, who she learned from her shamanic teacher, and it goes something like this. I check in, and if I feel that I have more to give than less to give, then I know I'm good to go. Some days that means different things than other days. Some days I am feeling very high energy and very engaged and coming in just ready to go. Other days, for whatever reason, personal life, being a parent, et cetera, there are reasons why you might not feel as robust. But I have pretty much always, been able to say to myself, yeah, no, I've got more on the plus side. I can show up to this work. And every time that works, I sit in the seat, I do my prayers, and off I go. Now, I think this is factual. In these past 22 years of full-time work in my practice, I can count on one hand maybe the amount of times I've taken a sick day. And again, that's due to all of the reasons I've already stated. The other thing that happens for me, and I think I've heard it happens to other psychics, is that when I'm in a session and I'm going out into non-ordinary reality to read for my client, I'm not in my body anymore, or my focus on my body is so minimal that I'm not aware of physical symptoms. And so an example that I can recall off the top of my head in this moment is the times in my life when I would have pretty strong menstrual cramps. And I would not want to be on pain medication for that. Just personal reasons, I just am not a fan of putting too much in my body that's just not already naturally there. But also, I don't medicate or drink alcohol during the week when I am going to be with clients. If I'm going into client sessions or ceremony work, I'm wanting to stay pretty clean and clear, because I don't need help being dissociated from my body at all. So those kinds of things would not be helpful for me. So using menstrual cramps as an example, I would need to show up for a full client session day, and during some of those earlier years, or even 8 to 10 years into my practice, I would sometimes see 6 clients a day. I don't do that anymore. That was a conscious decision I made some years ago to 4 are the maximum amount of clients I'll see in a day. But 6 hour or 6 client day would be a lot of hours, and if I was in a lot of discomfort, I began to notice pretty quickly that once I started to go into psychic realms, I was not aware of my physical symptoms until the day was over. So I would say goodbye to my last client, say the closing prayer, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, I don't feel good. So that's something else that happens. I think that when you're really deep in the work, you're not noticing your symptoms. So again, each one of you is going to be quite different. And if you're someone who already works with clients or students, or you are going to, you'll find your way around that. Things like low energy, things like when you feel like you have allergies or you have a cold, or perhaps your child was sick all night and you have not slept. Maybe you're writing your dissertation or you're writing a book and you're exhausted. I mean, life is going to keep happening, and you can't always be perfect all the time. Like any other job you do that you want to bring your excellence to it, some days you're just going to be in better form than others, and it does not mean that you are not still able to be of tremendous assistance. I personally just am wired inside to be pretty impatient and disinterested and not feeling good, and so I get kind of tired of not feeling good. If I have a cold or I've got some allergies, I might snuggle in for an afternoon and be restful. Then I get sort of like, okay, I'm done. I am still aware I'm having these symptoms, but I'm ready to move on, and I will do that. So I don't know if that's helpful to hear, but I sometimes just, I'll check in with my physical body and ask, do you really need rest? I mean, is this, I've gotten good at scanning my own body, or scanning the organs involved if I'm feeling symptoms, or scanning the system, the immune system, and just really, my body and I have a lot of trust with one another at this stage of the game, and so our communications are pretty direct and pretty honest and upfront. So if I'm feeling some symptoms and I want to know, can I work effectively on behalf of my clients? I'll go in and ask my body, say it's my throat, say I have a sore throat. I'm wondering, will I lose my voice? I'll go into the throat and say, really, do you need me to not do work today? And it's incredibly rare, almost wholly rare, that my body ever says, yeah, I need you to not engage in this work. Like I said, it's maybe been a handful of times, literally, in all these years. So the other practices I do to maintain this ability to show up is I'm a big fan of sleep. I like to get a lot of sleep. One of my power animals that I've worked with for years and years, even in my shamanic training, my own teacher gifted me the awareness of that I worked with this power animal, and the power animal is a cheetah. And right away, one of the first things I learned about cheetah that really resonated with me is cheetah's ability to run flat out, faster than anything, but for a short time. So I can go, but then I need to collapse. So I'm okay with that. I've built a life around, going nonstop for some days and then just having a good flop day. So finding your own rhythms, finding what works for you, finding ways that you can be in this for the long run. Again, if you're looking to be a practitioner and you would like this to be your life's work, I cannot stress how important it is to be aware of burnout and find ways that work for you to care for yourself. About 8 or 10 years ago, I went through some pretty serious burnout, not physically, it just mentally and emotionally. I felt like I really wondered if I had anything more to give to my community into spirit in this work. And it really rocked me because I assumed I would do this work till the day I died. And what I grew to discover over a couple of years of doing some good inner work, finding some good practitioners to work with for me, I came to realize it was not a burnout about the work, it was burnout around how I had structured the work. So that's when I moved my client sessions down to 3 days per week and 4 days of clients per week, and other things I implemented that were difficult, I thought, at first. It meant that, I changed pricing in my practice. I changed my availability. I made some big changes that I understood not everyone would want to follow me there, particularly when you get to a point where your experience, your education, what you have to offer and supply, that warrants, paying yourself, pricing your services to reflect that. That's not everyone is going to see your work in the same way or resonate with what you're asking in terms of, say, rates or your availability. And so at some point, though, you need to factor those ordinary business, life, and practical details into the overall sustainability of you being able to work. A lot of times over these years, I've seen numerous practitioners step away from this work because the work could not sustain them, either financially or otherwise. And when you're not feeling safe or secure in your own sustainability in your own life, you're gonna be susceptible to physical illness. This work, it can be easy to overextend yourself. It can be easy to not provide what you're needing for your own life. That gets us into a whole kind of another subject, which I think is important for practitioners, and that is, how do you model your practice so that it's sustainable over time and is still providing good and fair service in community. So I'm getting off topic, I understand. And this video's pretty long now, so I'll wrap it up. I hope that gave you some answers to your questions. If anyone has any other questions around these topics, feel free to ask me or comment. I'll pay attention if anyone comments in this video. The last thing I'll say is, do I worry about working with clients if I am kind of in a low level state, or if I have a cold or allergies? If you're asking about things like, making someone else sick, I know this may not be a very conventional answer, but well, first of all, I'm so very rarely ever sick that it's not something I need to consider very often. In the very rare times that I've had some colds, well, certainly with allergies, there's no communicability with that. But say a cold, the only time I would actively, not see a client would be, if I had a fever or if I was coughing or sneezing. I have had some low-level colds and still shown up to client sessions. I am mindful to stay some feet away from them, because I don't want to expose anyone. But I also have a very strong belief in how people get sick, and a strong belief from a psychic and vibrational medicine standpoint that, you know, if we stopped showing up, all of us, to things we would do because we didn't want someone to be exposed to our colds, say, I mean, they're touch a doorknob, get in an elevator, and walk by someone on the street. I just don't think it's possible or practical to always excuse yourself from a session if your symptoms are pretty low level. Now, again, I understand that's going to need to be a personal decision each of you would make in your own experience, your own logic, your own ethics, your own belief system. I'm so trusting in this process of working on behalf of spirit, that if I need to retire myself from a day of work, I will get that prompt. And if I get that prompt, I will respect it and heed it, and I would have no problem, you know, contacting clients and saying, you know, we will need to reschedule for this reason. But it's happened so very, very rarely, and so it's not something I have to encounter too often. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now. This is so incredibly long. Thank you for listening if you've made it to the end, and look for a couple more videos with some other really great questions that you guys have asked me. Okay, see you in a little bit.